This episode of the Flush Podcast is brought to you by Federal Premium Ammunition, Benelli Shotguns, and Carlson's Choke Tubes, a 1-2-3 punch that we take on every trip into the field. Today's guest has more than 50 years of upland bird hunting experience. He's now retired, and so what does he do? Well, he goes bird hunting. 8 states, 15 species of birds, coming right up. Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. My name is Travis Frank. I am your host, and I'm hoping that you're going to enjoy the guest that I have here today. He has joined us a few times on the road over the last few years in producing our television show, and it's people like Jim that allow us to tell some of these stories because we're a Minnesota-based company and we get to go out in the field and meet people like you, Jim, and you kind of take us under your wing sometimes. You've hunted with Ron, Shara, his daughters, Scott Franz, and you and I have not actually hunted together yet, but I have a feeling there's an opportunity there that may come about because you've entered a new chapter in your life and you are currently retired now / living your dream. Is that correct, Jim?
That's absolutely it. I started washing dishes as a kid at 13 years of age, and I was involved in the restaurant and hospitality industry from the time I was 13 until I was 57. And so a couple of years ago, I retired from working a real job, and now I hunt pretty hard from September through the beginning of February. And the rest of the year, I've got a little piece of land in northwest Kansas that I'm farming for wildlife, and so I work hard on it, and I just train dogs and get ready for the hunting season.
When was the first time Jim Millensifer shot an upland bird?
I was 15 years old. It's a funny story. I was not a hunter. My father, introduced me to the outdoors. I grew up in Colorado and lived there for the majority of my life until I relocated to Kansas, but My father wasn't a hunter, and I was working at a golf course as a cook in the winter, and it was on the outskirts of Denver, and some guys were hunting geese one day at the golf course, and I thought, well, that's crazy, and the pro said, well, yeah, we're in unincorporated Jefferson County, and the geese are bad for the golf course, and so we let them hunt. So the next day I was
typical golf course geese. That's nationwide.
Oh, yeah. And it really wasn't at this time. This is back in the early 70s.
Oh, okay.
The local geese that you have now in all metropolitan areas weren't really that prevalent then. But I went to school the next day and told a buddy of mine, and his eyes got big as saucers and said, well, do you think you can get me and my brother on there? So I went to the pro, and he said, sure. And I took Gary and his brother out to hunt geese the following weekend. And we snuck across the golf course and across a green and through a sand trap, and we jumped these geese, and I think they shot 6 geese on the flush. And that was a Sunday. I was in hunter safety on Tuesday. I got my card on Thursday. My parents were out of town, and my sister was 18. I was only 15, but my sister was 18, and I talked her into going to Kmart. And she bought a Remington 870.
You bought a gun through your sister.
Yeah, a straw purchase. Nice. I know I'm in trouble now, but my sister's deceased now, so I guess she can't get in trouble. But she bought me my first shotgun.
Statute of limitations applies here. It's all good.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I bought a Remington 870 at Kmart in 1975, and I went pheasant hunting the following day, and shot my first pheasant in Burlington, Colorado in December 1975.
Wow. Isn't it crazy how you can remember that moment? I mean, you told that story like you didn't know I was going to ask you that question, but yeah, you just, boom, right there.
Well, and I've obviously told the story. My sister passed away from cancer about 5 years ago, and I, God bless her, I love her and I miss her, but I still have that 870, and it's probably my most precious gun because technically my sister bought it for me, and it was the first. I carried that gun until 1992 and hunted, with it for 17 years. So, and it's way heavy.
Oh my goodness. I have the exact same gun. When I was 12 years old, I bought that same gun through my uncle from a coworker for $50, Remington 870 pump, 12 gauge, and I shot pheasants, ducks, geese, and I mean the things that it went through, and it's like one of those guns that so many people have memories with, and it's still sitting in my house today. I mean, obviously, I shoot a different gun today, and I love the Benelli shotgun that I shoot, but I will never be able to take those 870 memories away from me.
Absolutely.
So you obviously started early on in life hunting, and then you were in the hospitality industry, but you really got active with Pheasants Forever in the state of Kansas. I mean, how did that come about?
So I relocated, my wife and I relocated to Kansas in 2008. And really the biggest reason that I was able to talk her into that was not just from a career standpoint, but it was quality of life. You know, I had been hunting in Kansas and Nebraska and eastern Colorado for years, living in the Denver metropolitan area, and I knew I wanted to end up in a place where I could hunt easier and have better access. So I had some business arrangements in Kansas and was able to secure a job in western Kansas, and we relocated there. And early on, I got involved with the governor's office, Governor Sam Brownback. His initiative when he became governor in 2011, or one of his initiatives, was to promote hunting tourism. And so we started, 10 years ago, we started the Kansas Governor's Ringneck Classic, which is an event that was originally designed to promote hunting tourism in Kansas, and specifically Northwest Kansas. So the first couple of years we were quite successful, and the event rotated. But I quickly found out that sponsors and potential shows like the Flush, they wanted to participate and they wanted to support, but they were really concerned about what we were doing, not just to promote hunting tourism, but what we were doing to promote the sport, what we were doing to promote wildlife and habitat conservation, and to getting new folks involved in the sport. This was before the R3 movement, so didn't have a title, but they really wanted to know what we were doing to promote the sport itself. So we quickly evolved to where the event now is not just about promoting Northwest Kansas and promoting hunting tourism, but it's about supporting wildlife and habitat conservation, and it's about getting new people involved in the sport. And since it's a pheasant hunt,
Yep.
Pheasants Forever was the easiest partner to get involved, and they've been with us since the beginning, and they're actually the leading beneficiary of the event itself. We've donated well over $250,000 in the last 10 years to PF.
Just through the governor's hunts?
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did somebody even get into that? Like, I mean, you said you got involved with Governor Brownback's initiative, but how?
Well, I was involved in tourism. I was involved in trying to promote the state. I was involved in the restaurant and travel center and hotel business, and so it was natural for me to want to promote that transient guest traffic on Interstate 70 in western Kansas. So it was a natural fit. And frankly, I've got a partner, Raylene Keller, has been with us for 10 years in this event as well, and she's a go-getter and as aggressive as I am in terms of promoting our part of the state. And so between Raylene and I, we were able to not just secure the event for Oakley, Kansas, but also within 2 years we formed a 501c3. So we're now a nonprofit, and we were able to develop credibility. And the event rotated. It was it's been in 5 different communities in Northwest Kansas. We've settled on Colby at this point in time. It's a little easier to have it in one area rather than to have it rotate, but. Frankly, I was interested in promoting the state. I was interested in promoting transient guest traffic, and we've got over 1 million acres of habitat and land for the average person to hunt. You don't have to spend a lot of money to come to Northwest Kansas and hunt. We've got great public access. We've got good population of pheasants and quail and prairie chicken and turkeys and white-tailed deer and mule deer. So it's a tremendous place to come, and it's an easy sell. And again, I was involved in an industry that benefited from that.
Right. I would imagine it on the outside it looks very well put together and it's a smooth running operation, but are there a lot of logistical nightmares with trying to get the governor involved or the politics behind any of it? Did that muddy things up for you guys, or did you steer clear of that somehow?
Yeah, I like to share with people that wildlife and habitat conservation is nonpartisan.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. Promoting wildlife habitat and conservation is the right thing to do, period. So I'm not much into politics. I'd like to stay clear of it myself.
Most of us do. Yeah.
I think it's probably one of the reasons that we've been fairly successful. We did have a change in the administration. Governor Brownback was with us for the first 7 years, and then when he left to take a job in as an ambassador, Jeff Collier, the lieutenant governor, took his place. And then at the election, we now have a new governor, Laura Kelly, in Kansas, and she's definitely shown her support of the event, and so I'm excited to believe that again it's nonpartisan and it should continue.
Awesome. And I've seen other states. I mean, Minnesota does it, South Dakota does it, Iowa does it. I think North Dakota might. I'm not sure if they have a governor's hunt, but we've certainly been invited to all of the governor's hunts. And for us, I mean, we want to showcase as many of these as we possibly can, while also knowing that, these events they're kind of hard to tell the story of with the television because it's a big media event, really. And we want that one-on-one connection, interaction with the governor, and typically you're limited to a short window. I mean, how many people partook in, let's just say, opening day with the governor?
Governor Brownback, again, who started the event, had a deal where he would rotate from team to team. So we have teams of 6 that participate in the event, and we created a schedule for the governor where he would hunt for a couple hours with one team and then go to another team and hunt with them. And by the end of the day, he probably hunted with 18 to 24 people, depending on how the year went. And the logistics of putting that together can be difficult because, you want the governor to be, if the flush is there filming, you want him to make sure that he's there with Ron Shera and hunts with Ron. But there's also other folks that sponsor our event, and one of the reasons they sponsor the event is because it's important to them to have a few minutes with the governor. I've got a great sponsor who's been with us from the very beginning, and Tom has often told me that the $6,000 or the $8,000 that he spends to sponsor a team to come to our event is well worth having 15 or 20 minutes with the governor in that type of setting. Yeah. So it's definitely a challenge, but ultimately what we try to do is just get back to the basics. We're there to promote the sport. We're there to promote wildlife and habitat conservation, and we're there to get new folks involved in the sport. So virtually everything we do, all the decisions we make is geared around those 3 objectives. Gotcha.
So your life has always revolved around the hospitality side of it, and that got you into the governor's hunt and promoting the sport. But on a personal level, why do you care about the uplands? Why do you care about the birds?
Oh, wow. You know what? Hunting is my life. I'm a food guy and love to prepare and cook, and so hunting just became an extension of that, and or vice versa. Food became an extension of hunting. My wife and I eat wild game probably 95% of the time. I'm not a big game hunter. I do it mostly for the groceries. I've shot deer, I've shot elk, I've shot pronghorn. So I've been successful as a big game hunter, but mostly I hunt big game to make sure that I've got red meat in the freezer. My passion is upland bird hunting and hunting with my dogs. I have German wire-haired pointers. I have since 1995, and I can't describe the feeling of being behind a dog that finds birds, points birds, retrieves birds. It's as close to God as I can be. Yeah. Is being in a field behind my dogs.
That's cool. And so now you've got this opportunity to really hit the road, which I'm intrigued about because I try to go somewhere new every time we film a show. I try my best to show the variety of what this country offers. And most of the time, it's places that anybody can hunt. I love showcasing public land opportunities that if you and I wanted to get in a truck today and drive somewhere, we could go do it, just like somebody that watches the show. You hunted in how many states this year?
I hunted in 8 states in the 2019-2020 hunting season.
Any idea how many miles you put on your boots?
Oh, you know what? If there's a boot manufacturer listening to this podcast, reach out to me, because I have yet to find a pair of boots that I can't wear out in one season.
Yeah.
We probably, I'm not great with technology. People will use their smartphones or the different watches and stuff to track their steps and know how many miles they hunt. But when I'm hunting with someone that uses that technology, it's not uncommon for us to walk 10, 12, 14 miles in a day.
What's the most extreme bird you hunted for this year?
Himalayan snowcock in the Ruby Mountains of Nevada.
Tell me about it.
Oh, it's, 3 or 4 years ago when we first started talking about this, I didn't even believe there was such a thing as a Himalayan snowcock. And a little bit of research and social media, the way it is today, it's easy to find out. But it's absolutely the most challenging bird I've ever hunted. I've been hunting ptarmigan in Colorado for 30 years, and that's pretty challenging because you have to start at 9,000 or 10,000 feet and get above timberline. So you're hiking 3,000 or 4,000 feet in a day to get to ptarmigan, and that's a challenge, especially at altitude if you're not used to it. But hunting snowcock is absolutely different. This last year we hiked in 7.5 miles, and I'll be 60 in April, and the buddies that I hunt with are even older than me. And so when you're 60 or 65 years old, backpacking 7-8 miles, carrying 5, 6, 7 days worth of supplies, it's not the easiest thing in the world for anybody. But
it's not for anybody. I mean, what do you do to prepare yourself for that?
I hunt from September to February. I probably hunt 5 days a week on average, 4 or 5 days a week on average. I might walk 10 miles a day. In the summer, I take care of 80 acres of land, and so I'm always mowing, weeding, watering, moving hoses.
Very active.
Very active.
You stay active. You said you eat a lot of your own wild game, so you're eating healthy. And because, when I've done mountain hunts, it's pretty extreme. And I know a lot of hunters that they wouldn't climb 2,000 feet, and you're going up 10.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I grew up in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a mountain state. I actually went to college in Gunnison, Colorado. Played football in college in Gunnison. So, I played football at 7,800 feet of elevation. The highest stadium in the NCAA is in Gunnison, Colorado. So I grew up at elevation. I lived at elevation. So even though I live in western Kansas now, when I go back, it's not that tough to acclimate myself to it. But it's probably the reason I hunt. I've seen 8 or 10 people in the last 10 years that were close to me that I've lost, and some of them were to a car accident or cancer or dementia or different things. And frankly, it's the reason that I made the decision to quit working a couple of years ago for a paycheck was I want to be able to do what I can physically for as long as I can. And what I do is pretty physically demanding, and so
push yourself.
Absolutely.
You're pushing yourself every day. It sounds like. What makes you desire that next hunt or that next adventure? I mean, obviously, Himalayan snowcock is something few people will ever try to achieve in their life. I mean, what makes you internally say, like, I have this next adventure on my list? Is there something inside that do you want to get every species of bird?
Oh, I have kind of been a list guy in my life, and so I would like to continue to check birds off of the list that I haven't harvested in the past. I would like to continue to do that, but mostly it's just the lifestyle. It's eating. It's knowing where my food comes from. Mm-hmm. It's being able to create great dishes with the food that I harvest. Asian food is something that I started working on a couple of years ago. So we don't have good Thai restaurants in Western Kansas.
No, I would think you would.
Yeah. So I made it an objective a couple years ago to learn about Asian food. And have become pretty successful at that. So it's a lifestyle. It's working with my dogs. It's being successful. It's the cardiovascular workout. It's just a lifestyle, and I love it.
How many? Do you know how many different species of upland birds you've hunted or you've shot in your lifetime?
Over 20. There's only one. I've virtually hunted. I've killed more grouse than you could legally kill today. When we were in college in Gunnison, we hunted sage grouse. Well, in the early 2000s, they determined that the sage grouse that were living around the Gunnison area are actually a subspecies, and now they're protected and you can't hunt them. So I've killed Gunnison sage grouse. I've also killed lesser prairie chickens, which you can no longer hunt. So one year I made it an objective to shoot 8 different chickens in one season.
Did you do it?
I did.
Where'd you have to go to get them?
Colorado, Wyoming, and Kansas. At that time, you could shoot lesser and greater prairie chickens in Kansas. I shot rough grouse, blue grouse, sage grouse, and common sharptail in Wyoming. And then in Colorado, I shot ptarmigan, blue grouse again, and Colombian sharptail. And I don't know, maybe I'm not a biologist. I consider a Colombian sharptail different than a common sharptail. But
yeah, somebody that doesn't know them well enough might consider it almost the same bird, but there's obviously subspecies there.
I think they definitely look different.
Yeah. What's your favorite bird to hunt then?
Oh, wow. I will always love pheasants. I love the cackle of a rooster that gets up, but I love hunting quail. I love chickens, any type of chicken, sharp chickens, blue chickens, rough chickens, sage chickens, tundra chickens. I love hunting
Kentucky
grouse.
Fried Chicken.
Yeah. I love hunting grouse.
Yeah.
Any bird that my dogs can point, I'll pursue.
How many dogs have you had in your life?
I've had 7 German wire hairs. I got my first wire hair in 1995, and I've had 6 more since then. I've got 4 today. 4 of those 7 are still alive today. But I've got 2 dogs that are almost 12. One's retired. I got a puppy that just turned 1. I got another puppy that I'm getting next month. I like to have... with my lifestyle now, I like to have 4 dogs. I enjoy having 2 dogs on the ground at a time. My dogs hunt close.
Okay.
I'm not an English setter fan per se. I mean, they're beautiful dogs, but Brittany's, English setters, German short hairs, they tend to hunt too far out for me. I like to have a dog that's within shooting range and a dog that hunts close. And wire hairs it's all obviously part of training, but I like a dog that hunts close, and wire hairs have been my love.
How do you? Well, let's just say this: if somebody's like, gosh, dang it, I'd love to go hunt somewhere new. I've never gone before. How do you go about picking where you're going to hunt and preparing for the trip?
I think it's changed in the last few years. Social media has made hunting upland birds, I think, a lot easier than maybe it was 15 or 20 years ago. And the technology, OnX and some of the other apps that are out there today, and I think they're terrific. I think all of that stuff is great. We need, as hunters, I'm almost 60. I'm fat, old, bald. I'm the prototypical upland hunter. We need to change that. We need to get new people in the sport. We need young folks. We need women. We need people that are not my prototype in the sport. And if we can figure out a way to help people become more successful, it's great to go out and it's great to see nature and it's great to be part of it. But frankly, someone's got to have some success. And so, I love to hunt prairie grouse. One of the reasons that I started hunting prairie chickens was during the drought in Kansas. I figured, well, if I'm going to walk 10 or 12 or 14 miles a day to find one rooster pheasant during the drought, I might as well start hunting prairie chickens because those birds are indigenous. They've been here since the bison roamed these plains, tens of thousands of years. These birds are ancestors of something that was here that long ago. So I started hunting prairie chicken because I really wanted to get that trophy. Well, you can't take somebody that's new to the sport and tell them to go out and walk 14 miles
right.
And maybe, by the way, you'll get one shot. And frankly, you got to be ready. When you're hunting prairie chickens, you have to be ready. you've got to be able to identify that it's a prairie chicken, it's not a hen pheasant. You got to know quickly that you're going to get an opportunity. So I think that technology and social media and the folks that have really helped promote the sport have helped in terms of getting people more opportunities and making the opportunities easier. And I think that's good. But if you're going to a new area, I hunt Wyoming every year. We hunt for a week in Wyoming, and Wyoming I think has one of the greatest upland. Idaho maybe is second to first to Wyoming in terms of opportunities and the number of species that you can hunt.
Just the sheer variety of birds.
Absolutely, and public access. And not only variety, but varieties at the same time. I mean, you can hunt 4 grouse in Wyoming in a week if you're willing to travel. You can hunt 6 or 7 different species of upland birds in Idaho on a week or a 10-day trip if you're willing to travel.
A lot of times you can do multiple species in the same day.
Absolutely.
Realistically, I mean, depending on your elevation, you can run into Hungarian partridge. You can be into grouse, blues. I mean, what you're speaking my language, because I love that variety. And just when you go west river of the Missouri River, I swear America just says, here we go, BLM or some sort of, public land. A lot of those states out there are so different from, I'll say, Minnesota or Wisconsin or Illinois, in just the fact that we have, here a lot of, 40, 80, 160 acre pieces of public property. Out there, you add a couple zeros to those tracts. I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of acres. And that's for anybody to be able to go hunt.
One of the things that you just mentioned that is to me is one of the most exciting things, and it's one of the things that gets me out is the opportunity to find different species at the same place. There's nothing greater than being in a river bottom or a sorghum field or kochia weeds or whatever in western Kansas, northwest Kansas. There's nothing greater than thinking that your dog's on point and it's going to be a covey of quail and have 3 or 4 roosters get up, or vice versa. You swear it's going to be pheasant and a covey of 25 bobs gets up. There's nothing more exciting to me than to have the opportunity to not know what it's going to be. And I mentioned Idaho. We hunted, I think it was called the Cache Valley. It was north of Logan, Utah, up into Idaho. And on one piece of land, it was world-class sharptail hunting. But we also saw chucker, Hungarian partridge, and I wasn't able to shoot pheasant because it was too early. It was a week before pheasant season opened.
You probably saw them.
But I had 3 points on roosters. So on one piece of land, I shot again, world-class sharptail hunting, and these were Colombian sharptail. But we also killed huns, we killed a chucker, and saw pheasants on the same piece of land. That's crazy exciting to me.
Love it. If you could, you've seen a lot of the country, you've hunted a lot of the birds. If somebody says, Jim, I have one bucket list hunt to do in my life, what should it be?
Desert quail are amazing, whether it's New Mexico or whether it's Arizona. If you've never hunted desert quail, Mearns quail, Gamble's, and blue or scaled quail, if you've never hunted desert quail, the beauty of the desert is amazing. Now, I grew up in the mountains, but I love the Sonora Desert. I love that area. And that's an amazing deal. Plus, you go down there in December or January and it might only be 45 or 50 degrees. So it's kind of nice. I mean, I come from western Kansas when we might be hunting in 15 or 20 below wind chill, and to go to the desert of Arizona and be able to hunt quail in that setting is very, very cool.
You want to know what happened to me? I'm a Minnesota boy, and I went to Arizona last year to film a show, and we flew out of Minneapolis, and when we landed, we were told that a snowstorm had hit in southern Arizona, and the lodge that we were supposed to stay at had to close because all their pipes are above ground. They got 7 or 8 inches, and when it goes below 32 degrees down there, they do not know what to do. So I got to hunt in the snow in the mountains of Arizona. But I will say that I agree with you in that just the experience of being in the desert and the elevation and the different species of birds. And it's the variety, right? It's the spice of life. You get to try something new. And for me, that was something new. And I fully enjoyed just being in that different, the desert is something new for most people, most bird hunters.
I live in just outside of Oakley, Kansas. So I'm right near Interstate 70 and right near 83, which is the major north-south in western Kansas. So I left my house 6 o'clock in the morning, drove down by Ulysses, Kansas, hit a piece of walk-in public access, killed 4 bobs and 2 roosters in a walk-in field, spent the night in New Mexico, continued on down to Arizona, and shot scaled quail, Mearns quail, Gamble's quail, saw Coues deer, picked up Coues deer sheds. On that trip, I found whitetail shed, mule deer shed, and Coues deer sheds on one trip.
Awesome.
To find sheds from 3 different types of deer, to kill 4 different types of quail, to kill a pheasant. That's a bucket list trip for me.
Yeah. If you could hunt with anybody one more time, who would it be?
Oh, wow. Orville Gast. I met a guy. I had 7 restaurants in Denver. This was back in the late 80s. And I met a guy, Orville Gast, was a retired guy. He got me into bird dogs. He grew up in North Dakota. He was in the Army, and he retired from the Army and went to Colorado and lived right near where he had worked for 40 plus years. I met Orville when he was probably 65 years old, and he taught me more about dogs than I could ever believe. My first dog, Jaeger, I was traveling quite a bit, and so I would drive by Orville's house. I would drop Jaeger off, get on an airplane, be gone for 5 days, come back and pick up Jaeger. And for 5 days, Jaeger was training with Orville the whole time I was gone. My Jaeger went to South Dakota before I ever hunted South Dakota. So I miss Orville. He was a cool guy. He taught me a lot about dogs, and I would love the opportunity to hunt with Orville one more time.
You mentioned something a bit ago about, the generation that you want to get into the field. How do you personally help bring a new hunter into the field? Or what do you do anything? Is it one-on-one mentorship with a young hunter? What do you do to help pass on your knowledge to the next generation?
So I would be, if I were your age, I would be scared to death of what hunting's going to look like in 30 years.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that I will have the opportunity to do what I want either on private land. I mean, I've obviously met people and have pretty good access to some amazing hunting, but I also know great public access in lots of different states. And so I believe that as long as I'm physically able, that hunting will exist and I'll have the opportunity to do it. But if I was 20 or 25 years old, I'd be scared to death about what it would look like when I was 50 or 60 like I am today. I'm fearful for you new hunters on what opportunities will exist for them. So, what specifically the whole R3 initiative, getting new folks involved, getting folks that used to hunt back in it, getting folks to hunt more often. In the restaurant business, I tell people for years, I taught restaurant managers, there's only 3 ways to build sales. You either have to get a new customer, you got to get more money out of the guest that's already coming, or you got to get the guests that are coming to come back more often, right? Mm-hmm. That's the only way to build business. Yep. Well, it's the same thing in hunting. We either have to get more people involved in the sport, we have to get the people that are involved to do it more often, or we got to get people that used to do it to come back to it, right? So the whole R3 thing is just, business 101, basically.
Yeah.
I got a kid that's 24 years old, Conrad, 23 years old. Conrad lived next door to me, moved in with his grandma when he was 5 years old, and his father wasn't a big part of his life, and so I started taking Conrad hunting and fishing and climbing mountains when he was 5 years old, and he's a maniac now. He lives in Kansas. He hunts as often as he can, and he's a nut. So I successfully introduced somebody to the sport, and I know that Conrad will in time introduce more people to the sport. I think you just have to you have to help people become successful. If people are interested, you got to take the time to introduce them. So whether it's getting somebody on a field that has birds in it behind your dogs and having them feel that excitement, whether it's helping somebody acquire equipment that they need, whether it's helping, most people are very, very nervous about telling people where they can go to be successful.
Right, because there's a limited opportunity.
But you know what? We have to be successful.
Right,
I got a call
right.
from a guy. I got a call from a guy from upstate New York. This was like the last week of the hunting season. So the last week of January, I get a phone call from a guy. He says, "I got your phone number from a guy in Topeka." He said, "You're the guy to talk to. I'm traveling through Kansas on my way to Colorado. I'm looking for a place to run my dog. Where should I hunt?" I said, "Well, where are you at now?" He says, "I'm in Hays, Kansas." I said, "All right, if I were in Hays, Kansas and only had today to hunt, I'd go north up towards Stockton. I'd find Webster Reservoir." And I gave him some ideas around Webster Reservoir where I thought that he could find quail or pheasants if he put the time in, if he was a hunter, and if his dog was any good, right? I mean,
You don't know those things.
Don't know those things.
You can lead a horse to water, right?
I felt confident that he could be successful if he went to these areas and if he put the time in. Next night, or later that night, I get a call from him. This guy was ecstatic. He found a couple different covey of quail. He shot one rooster and was upset at himself because he was shooting an over and under and he jumped a pheasant and killed one, but then like three others flushed and he had no shells in his gun, but he had an amazing experience. So did I share somebody, a secret spot? No, I didn't share a secret spot. I gave him a general area. I told him where I thought he'd be successful if he hunted hard, and he was. And I know that in turn he'll do that for somebody else down the road. I just think that we have to help people become successful.
Yeah. One thing, this has really stood out in my life in the last several years. I was probably, 6 or 7 years ago, I was working with the state of Minnesota in the governor's office, and they were working on a pheasant initiative plan. And he had a couple very passionate employees that worked for the state. And we were trying to put together a video for them that they could then use throughout all of their different meetings with other state officials, with Pheasants Forever, et cetera, et cetera. And, he wanted to inspire people. And we're sitting there at a table just like this, and he looks at me with this passion. He goes, "Travis, if we could just get everybody to take one person hunting this year, one person, we would double the voice of conservation in 1 year. Why can't we get everyone to take one person hunting?" And the passion that he had, but it made sense at the same time. If everybody just took one person hunting, and I feel like the experiences that you've had in your lifetime, my experiences in half of your life, the one-on-one time spent with somebody is so invaluable. So it's always stuck with me. If I can just take one person this year right alongside me. I mean, fortunately, I have a voice that I can talk to a lot of people at one time, but I think my greatest value in helping the next generation is literally bringing somebody into the field. And I've heard other people tell me stories about that one person in their life that's changed them. So I think we can do that. I mean, I really do. I hope that if somebody's listening, they say, "I know somebody that's never been hunting or that's shown interest in it, and I can take them out there and give them the experience. And once they have that experience, who knows what might come of it, right?"
Absolutely. There's a culture, and it exists in Northwest Kansas where I'm at to this day. There are people that would prefer that we don't get the transient hunter. We don't get folks coming in. Especially, it's a big deal in deer hunting. People want to keep things secret, and I get it that everybody wants to have that honey hole that they know about and they want to keep it secret. But the fact of the matter is, hunting will not exist 25 or 30 years from now if we don't get new people involved in the sport. We are the leading funders or I mean, we pay for wildlife and habitat conservation. And if we don't improve our numbers, if we don't increase then hunting won't exist. Again, I told you a few minutes ago, I'll be 60. I know that I'm going to be able to hunt as long as I'm physically able to. I'm comfortable that I'm going to get the opportunity to do it. And frankly, when I'm gone, what's the difference from a selfish perspective?
Mm-hmm.
I would be scared to death if I were 25 or 30 years old. So I think it's incumbent on every hunter to do what we can to bring new people into the sport, to help them be successful, to help them find an opportunity. And your idea of getting everybody to bring in one is, again, it's like business 101.
Right. And there's nothing, I mean, and I've spoken at PF banquets before too, and something that always stands out to me is like, we're in this big room, right? We're all here for the same reason, grassland, conservation, all that. But yet, if we want somebody to care about what we care about, somebody that's never seen a pheasant flush out of the grass, that's maybe never walked in a grass or seen ducks come into the decoys or a turkey strut, or even know what it's like to have your heart pumping when a deer is walking in. If we want that person to care and they've never experienced it, why would they? Why would they care?
So the old adage, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
They're going to have 30,000 plus people come through Pheasant Fest this weekend. But the reason that somebody's here is because they are a hunter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, what we need to do as hunters, what we need to do as conservationists, is figure out another way to market what we're doing. And my favorite way is the knowing where your food came from. And I think that's one of our biggest opportunities today.
Yep.
I have people. If I eat wild 95% of the time, that means if you come to my house to eat, you're going to be eating wild, right? Because that's what we do. But the terms gamey and the different things that people talk about when they talk about venison or ducks. Ducks have a bad rap. A
lot of wild game gets that bad rap, and I this as well as anybody. It's the person that's cooking it. Probably overcooked it,
or how it was taken care of in the field after it was harvested, right?
Yep.
So I'm a huge advocate of using everything. I'm a huge advocate of figuring ways to make sure that it's as good as it can be when it gets to the plate. Again, I told you earlier, food's my life, right? So I take great pride in what I prepare. But that's an avenue to get new people involved in the sport, or to help them understand why we're doing what we're doing. And I think it might be the whole field to table or farm to table things that are going on now in the culinary world are an opportunity for us to leverage. But there's other opportunities, just getting kids outside.
Yeah. Yep, making them a priority, no doubt about it. Well, we appreciate you taking the time today. I think we have the opportunity to dive into the food knowledge that you have with these wild birds, but we'll do that at another time. One last question to send people home with, aside from the reminder to just think about one person that they could influence next time they go hunting. But do you have just one spot in Kansas that you could throw out there that you'd be willing to share? One place that you would it might not necessarily be a secret, but that somebody might say, might have to try that.
So I get 3 or 4 calls a season at least, if not more, on people that want to know where they can hunt prairie chickens, right? Prairie chicken seems to be a bucket list bird for big time upland bird hunters. And I've probably been successful maybe 30 or 40% of the time when I get the call from PF or somebody else that wants me to help somebody or take somebody prairie chicken hunting. Hunting prairie chickens in November, December, January is tough. Hunting them in September is not as difficult when you're hunting the brood, the hen with the brood from that year with dogs especially. But to get a prairie chicken in December or January on point is pretty difficult. So I will. This is not a secret. There's plenty of land north of Hill City, between Hill City, Kansas and Norton, Kansas. There's plenty of access via the WEHA, walk-in hunting access program that the state of Kansas has. And there are tremendous areas between Hill City and Norton to hunt prairie chicken. You just have to look for a pasture that's in the walk-in program that's been grazed but not overgrazed. You don't want real tall grass. Prairie chickens like to be able to see, right? So a prairie chicken wants to be up high. They want to be on a knoll. They want to be on a ridge. They want to be able to see. So they're not going to be in an area where the weeds are very, very tall, or they're not going to be in CRP. They want them to be in an area. The reason the prairie chicken are on the plains during the age of the bison was because the bison were grazing the grasslands, right? So the prairie chickens followed the bison, and it was the prime habitat for them. So look for a prairie, a pasture that's got shorter grass, that's near feed. Prairie chickens are still pretty lazy. They're still going to go as least far as they have to get grain. But if you can find a piece of walk-in land that's got some grazing that's been accomplished, that's got a sorghum or a cornfield next to it, you're going to find prairie chickens. North of Hill City, between Hill City and Norton, Kansas, you will find prairie chickens. You may not get a shot. You might see them at 150 yards before they fly.
They're there though.
But you also might get the advantage of coming over a knoll and scaring them up at 20 yards. So.
Well, Jim, we appreciate the time today. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom with us. And I wish you very much success on your future hunts, wherever they may take you. We will catch you guys next week on another episode of the Flush Podcast.